Hi everyone, and thanks for everybody who's subscribed to my channel, and if you haven't, please press subscribe now so you'll be notified when my videos are posted. And thank you to everybody who continues to share my videos. I'm very appreciative. Today I would like to speak about the housing disaster. We've seen this being completely manufactured by the Irish political establishment over the long past number of years, and we've seen the housing crisis get out of control for more and more people, forcing a generation into emigration. We've seen more and more people, for instance, being forced into homelessness because they're evicted from the insecure private rented sector. And also at the sharpest end, we saw over 40 people that have died in the streets of Dublin last year. It's absolutely shameful, but this is all on the watch of the Irish political establishment. Now, over the last number of weeks, they've been coming under pressure because of the lies they've been coming on their figures in terms of the housing supply. During the run-up to the general election back in November, the Irish government were pushing out this narrative that up to 40,000 homes would be complete by the end of 2024. Now, that was found to be a complete and utter con job, because just over 30,000 homes were completed in 2024. And now what's their answer? Their answer is now to work together to get a push towards attacking ordinary people yet again. Today I only noted that the Irish government are looking at changing planning laws around putting log cabins and perhaps garden sheds as new accommodation facilities for people. And I'm almost certain this will be used by unscrupulous landlords to extract huge rents at the expense of people who are desperate for accommodation. Now, what's really fascinating with what's gone on in the last number of days has been the push to get rid of the rent pressure zones. Now, they were brought in about 7 or 8 years ago at this stage, and the idea was to control rents, or so it seems. But of course, rents have still seen exponential increases because so many landlords haven't abided by the rent pressure legislation, and as well there's so many loopholes that were all put in and manufactured carefully to keep the rents at high levels for the international investors. But now the Irish government are up in arms because they're saying that they need more private investment for housing. Where have we seen this before? Sky high house prices, sky high rents, a generation being forced into emigration, and on top of that we see the immigration chaos putting pressure on accommodation prices and keeping accommodation costs high. Now, what's really important, well, what the narrative has been, it's been coming from the big lobbyists that the Irish government represent, such as the property owners and many more institutional investors that have a revolving door with the Irish government. If, for instance, Brian Hayes is the chair of the Bank and Payments Federation of Ireland, of course an ex-member of Fine Gael, and we've seen that revolving door work with the Irish government into those positions of power with vulture funds. Enda Kenny, most famously, went to work with a vulture fund when he quit being Taoiseach. Of course, Enda Kenny was the man that said Ireland was the best little country to do business in, if people remember, at the time of the financial crash and the bank bailout that saddled Ireland with devastating austerity and nearly half the total European banking debt that we're still paying for today through our absolutely extortionate national debt. But of course, this is more of the same push by the Irish government. And what's really revealing about their push is they said that we need more private investment because we need to get more supply built. And this is what's really fascinating about this. The whole idea is more supply will bring prices down. Well, actually, it works in the opposite impact, because these investors look for a return on their investment, and private equity firms, and they're not going to work with any market that is being controlled. But what's very interesting about this is that it's not a real market, because it's a completely artificial and contrived market because of all the tax breaks that are given to developers. Many of these homes, for instance, the private rented accommodation here behind me in Harold's Cross, has been gifted to developers and builders by through us, through the National Asset Management Agency. For instance, that site behind me there that I'll talk about in a few minutes in Harold's Cross, where rents are currently just over €2,600 per month. Absolutely extortionate for people who are struggling for anywhere to live. But the push has been through the lobbyists and through also the OECD, who said that they should look at diluting rent caps and actually getting rid of rent caps because of lack of certainty in the market for these big institutional investors. And they said it would affect the supply of housing. But the yields are amongst the highest in Europe, and they won't tell you that, where rents are at absolutely rip-off levels for people, and at the same time the yields are at one of the highest levels across Europe and across the world, and with rents also at those levels in comparison to many countries. For instance, we look at many countries such as Paris, in France, Amsterdam, where we're well in excess of those rents of those cities in European capitals and across the world as well. Now, this rents have over doubled in the last 10 years. As I said, and again, more and more renters have been forced into poverty and into evictions as well because of these policies. And what's really, really revealing with this as well is the lack of building of public housing, because this has been part of the agenda through the European Union and the bank bailout to stop building public homes. And of course, all those developers and all their misdeeds were all rewarded for us bailing them out. And at the same time, we can see what's happening in Ireland. They're looking for more tax breaks for developers, looking for opening up the door to the private rented sector in terms of more institutional and private equity firms to move in. And what's really, really revealing with this also is the fact that none of these apartments were built to sell for people to have long-term secure homes which are affordable. And this apartment block behind me, which is part of it here, was a 4-acre site in Harold's Cross. This originally went to a company called Twinlight Construction. Of course, they went into NAMA during the time of the financial crash and were bought by New Generation Homes. And that New Generation Homes built and developed the site, and then afterwards sold it on to a German institutional investor called Patrizia. And now where rents are well over €2,600 per month for a 2-bed home. If you consider this, that's about €31,000 per year will be taken in for one of those 2-bed apartments. And there are 180 apartments there, so that's about €5 to €6 million a year, which is at least a 6 to 7% gross yield and huge return on profit for these institutional investors. And what's also interesting with this is the company behind it, Patrizia, actually have shareholders and are working for pension funds for municipal workers in Germany. So public sector workers in Germany are profiting from the housing disaster. And it shows you how crazy the financialisation of the housing sector has gone, and how the reliance on property, which is an unproductive asset, doesn't produce anything, and is transmitted and used as top of the agenda across Europe, and in particular here in Ireland, which makes Ireland essentially wide open to international events, rather than building a strong supply of public housing which is financially prudent and having a strong sustainable income from that public housing, where you can regenerate the homes and also pay for the upkeep and maintenance of those homes as well, and build more homes and where people have security. But of course, we bailed out all of these developers through our austerity that we're still paying with our national debt, all because of the European Union, the IMF and the European Central Bank. And yes, people extol the virtues of these people who are dragging us towards more war. Absolutely lunacy. But this is the fallacy of the Irish property sector, all driven by deliberate government policies, and notwithstanding the pressures that are coming on because of the massive increase in population we've seen over the past number of years. This is the untold story, and many people can't afford to live in their communities, in their cities, in their country, and are forced into emigration. It has to change, and it needs to change by uncovering the mask and pulling it back from the Irish political establishment, and know exactly who they represent and who they serve at the expense of ordinary people who pay for all this. Thanks for all the support with my videos, and please press subscribe to my channel. Thanks for all the support, and slán. See you all soon. Bye bye.